WorldNet Daily Live. Today's episode, Silenced. Welcome to the program. Today is Monday, and it was a fast and furious weekend. If you were here with us on Friday when we watched RFK withdraw from the race and endorse, we'll get into that a little bit later. But the big news over the weekend, of course, is that Telegram CEO Pavel Durov was arrested in France. And for charges related to his app Telegram. Now, if you're not familiar with Telegram, it is a messaging and social media app, encrypted messaging that's used worldwide, much more popular across the rest of the world than it perhaps is here. Although WorldNet Daily does have a channel on there, so we encourage you to follow us there. But it's being reported that he could be faced with 20 years in prison. Here's the QR code. Censorship is coming, and it's obviously starting in France if it hasn't already started elsewhere. So we are going to get reactions also from the independents, the Democrats and Republicans, like I mentioned on the RFK decision. But let's bring up our A-list panel here as we dive into these charges against Pavel, against Durov, the founder and operator of Telegram. You guys, this is a little different, I think, than like Julian Assange, who was picked up for like sex crime charges. These charges are actually related to his operating of Telegram. And there's his, I believe that might be his mugshot. I don't know if that's his profile picture. It's a very nice
mugshot.
It's a very nice, yes. And you may also recognize him as Tucker. He was in one of the more popular Tucker Carlson interviews that Tucker did. But these charges here, if we have, I don't know who tweeted out the document here. Yeah, here it is here. You can look at these charges. Complicity. A lot of these are being complicit in webmastering an online platform in order to enable illegal transactions, complicity in possessing pornographic images of minors, complicity in acquiring and transporting or offering to sell narcotic substances, organized fraud. A lot of this, is complicit. He is complicit because his app is being used to do these things. And so this is a very, very serious issue because if this is, like I said, they're not picking him up on his own personal charges, guys. They're picking him up on the fact that he invented this app and allows people to use it. Elizabeth, I mean, this is very chilling, don't you think?
Well, I felt it was chilling when Keir Starmer of the UK was threatening Elon. I was just trying to pull up what the exact, and I'm not going to play. I mean, I didn't tell you to cue this up, but obviously Keir Starmer's, making threatening noises, and I can't remember what other countries in the EU were doing that. But I thought at the time, this is very scary. Now, Elon Musk never has to go to England unless he really wants to, but are they going to literally arrest someone like Elon Musk? Maybe they'll just censor X. Maybe they'll just shut it down in their country. But could they actually put out an arrest warrant and arrest him? That just seemed unthinkable. But then I want to draw a parallel to the ICC, International Criminal Court, which is a completely bogus and compromised institution, is wanting to put out arrest warrants for the prime minister and other officials of Israel. Oh, and then they'll also supposedly arrest a couple of terrorists in Hamas. But the point is that they're using lawfare on an international scale. And this is what we're seeing now. And so, Mr. Doomer over there, Josh.
Yeah.
You're so always, it doesn't matter. Dooming, being the doomer is always right. That's a bad thing, but at least you're affirmed.
But when he's what was it? When you can perceive, you're a prophet doomer. That's
right.
The most dangerous part. Josh, we've been saying this censorship is coming. This is a huge. I mean, the guy's in prison, right? I mean, this is. I mean, or he's in jail at the moment, in custody. I imagine. Where do you think this is headed?
Yeah, where the question, where is this headed, is never been more difficult to even predict or speculate on. But one thing that we know is that leading up to the election, open sources of information or free sources of information, which is what Telegram has always been known for more than any other platform, even X, Telegram has always been open. So even at the staunchest lockdown on information during COVID, you could go see information at Telegram. It's been very useful for that. So of course, that can't be available to us in the way that we want it to be when it comes time to know who won the election in November 6th. So one strategy they can use is they can try to lock up this guy in jail. And this is the Steve Bannon technique, right? Put the leader in jail so that the organization can't function well to get information to folks. But also, they'll use the media now to say that he assists in drug dealing pornography. They'll use the kid pornography thing, and they'll essentially try to assassinate the character of this person so that in the mind of the average person, Telegram now equals bad, and you can't trust the info. And my guess would be that shortly thereafter, others will follow.
Well, Joe, I want to ask you this. Should Mark Zuckerberg be in fear of going to France? Because we know his platform is also full of people that deal in nefarious activities. What do you think?
They will never go after Mark Zuckerberg because he's on their team. He's part of this global deep state, if you want to think of it that way. And he does everything he can to harm conservatives. And when it comes to liberal things, we've done stories on WND about years ago, like 10, 15, 20 years ago, about how Facebook was promoting child pornography. So you'll never see Mark Zuckerberg in the crosshairs because he is part of that deep state. Now, one thing I wanted to bring up about Pavel there is that when he was giving his interview to Tucker Carlson recently, a few months ago, he mentioned that the U.S. government, it's not France now, the U.S. government tried to hire his engineer to create back doors into Telegram so that the U.S. government could be spying on everything that anyone who was using the application of Telegram was writing, posting, saying. So if you think this is a European thing, it's not. The U.S. government, if you want to use the word complicity, they're complicit in this plan to make sure they know every single thing that is going on in your mind. It's like the East German Stasi way back in the day.
Yeah. And Joe, to your point there, we have a clip of Durov telling Tucker that very story. Let's watch that real quick.
We get too much attention from the FBI, the security agencies, wherever we came to the US. So to give you an example, last time I was in the US, I brought an engineer that is working for Telegram, and there was an attempt to secretly hire my engineer behind my back by cyber security officers or agents, wherever they are called.
The U.S. government should hire your engineer?
That's my understanding. That's what he told me.
To write code for them or to break into Telegram?
They were curious to learn which open source libraries are integrated to the Telegram's app, on the client side, and they were trying to persuade him to use certain open source tools that he would then integrate into the Telegram's code that, in my understanding, would serve as backdoors.
Yeah. So clearly, and then also he was also talking about how he got conflicting reasons or conflicting things coming from the U.S. when it came to the January 6th investigation, because Telegram was being used as an encryption tool or a thing to quote plan or communicate during big uprisings or big events like January 6th. So let's watch this clip here when he describes how the Democrats and Republicans reached out to him.
Have you come under pressure from other governments to accommodate their demands?
Well, of course, Telegram is a large platform.
Can you give us an example of a request that you thought crossed into censorship and spying?
I would say a very funny story related to your home country. After the events of January the 6th, we received a letter from congressmen of the Democratic side. They requested that we would share all the data we had in relation to what they called this uprising. And we checked it with our lawyers, and they said, you better ignore it. But the letter seemed very serious. The letter said, if you fail to comply with this request, you will be in violation with the US Constitution or something.
So they wanted data on people who voted for the other guy in the election.
What's funny about it is 2 weeks after that letter, we got another letter from the Republican side. We read that if we give out any data according to the previous request, we would be in violation of the US Constitution.
Yes, of course. So there you have it. Both sides looking at the same document, right, Joe?
This is what happens with everything. It's like when people read the Bible. One person has one interpretation, someone has the other. But to use the Constitution card to say, oh, you're violating the Constitution if you don't squeal on your neighbors, this is just astonishing. They are getting into, the First Amendment. It's first for a reason, by the way, because it's the most important of the amendments to the U.S. Constitution. It's about freedom of speech and freedom of worship, that kind of thing, because people want to be able to say what is on their mind without fear of being tossed in jail or harassed or politically persecuted. In the Bible, it's in one of the minor prophets, but Zechariah 8:16 says, "Speak ye the truth one unto his neighbor. Exercise the judgment of truth and peace in your gates, in your courts." So the Bible makes a big deal from start to finish about speaking the truth and the ability to speak the truth openly in your courts, in your gates, wherever you are, because speaking freely is like the cornerstone of what this country was founded on.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, the idea that we have this tweet here of somebody, I forget who it was, is David Sachs?
David Sachs, yeah,
who showed like which platforms are going to be going after, and first was TikTok because TikTok was a big.
Oh, and then he crossed out TikTok.
Yeah, they crossed out, and now he's going to need to cross out Telegram. X, one of your favorite platforms, is on that list, and then of course we see Rumble down there.
All I care about is I care about those three remaining: Telegram, X, and Rumble. I use Telegram a lot for my Israel news. It comes in fast and furious, and I subscribe to a bunch of channels there, and you can you get updates of Galilee, incoming rockets from Hezbollah. The detail there is extraordinary, and there's no crosstalk. In other words, I don't know if some channels or accounts allow it, but virtually everyone that I belong to, and they're all mainstreamish, nobody's commenting. It's really just a constant, steady barrage of information. And if you really want to know minute by minute what is happening someplace in especially a crisis or a fast-paced news story that's really big, then if you're subscribed to the right channels on Telegram, you don't have all this chitter chatter. There's not a bunch of memes. There's not people being snarky or trolling or this or that. They're just, give me the news, give me the news, give me the news. Well, they don't want that because, that's a lot of news, and it's from trusted sources if you trust them. And it's not a bunch of just, like I said, snarky back and forth, which is distracting. It gets very, very distracting. Well, they don't want us to have that kind of news.
Right. But if you do want the snarky channels, I can send some to you, Elizabeth.
Thanks a lot. But, I mean, on X, I get distracted because I start commenting back to somebody, and I'm commenting. Wait a minute, I don't have time for this. But,
yes.
And I'll keep reposting. But with X, with Telegram, I'm just a consumer. That's it.
Yeah, very good, Josh. One has to think when we looked at, and I believe we talked about this on the show where we talked about the elections in France and how the Le Pen sort of style of governing, grabbed some seats at the EU, but it didn't fare so well in the French Parliament, and so now we're kind of stuck with Macron. And Macron has come out and says that he's a total advocate for free speech, but the timing of this seems to be odd, in my perspective, that now that he's solidified in his position until the next election, that they can start cracking down on this way. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, this is the way that Europe has gone now. So, there's a saying online that Europe has fallen, but it truly has, because despite elections or the people voting on major issues, nothing really changes. So the people voted on Brexit a few years back. There's been no change. In fact, instead, the UK has decided to bring in more immigrant folks that are not getting along with the population, and we see that unrest. But also, just even a month ago, we were seeing all this upheaval in France, but it came to nothing. Macron is still in power. Europe may represent the best example of globalist power, because there's a larger thing going on that doesn't involve the people of Europe. And so here we go. France is being the useful idiot in the globalist agenda to censorship, which also plays into America's need for censorship before our election. So here in this tweet, you'll see Emmanuel Macron says, "I have seen false information. False information, everybody. You know what that means. Just read read real information. I've seen false information regarding France following the arrest of Pavel Durov. France is deeply committed to freedom of expression and communication, to innovation, and to the spirit of entrepreneurship. It will remain so." I'll skip down to the bottom. The arrest of the president of Telegram on French soil took place as part of an ongoing global judicial investigation. It is in no way a political decision. Absolutely false. It is up to the judge to rule on this matter. So almost everything except for, well, actually, most of it is just inversion and projection. Almost everything in that statement is inaccurate. And it's not up to the judge. The pressure will be on the judge from the entire system to make an example of this person, or at least disable his ability to speak the truth until after the election.
Right. Joe, was Brexit just a flash in the pan? I remember at the time thinking this was a new wave of freedom and sovereignty that was going to sweep over Europe, but that seems to have been the last. Well, I mean, at the time, right? I mean, it was a few months before Trump's election, and so people thought we were going that way, right, Joe?
In the big war, there are battles that are won and lost. For instance, when Elon Musk took over Twitter, everyone saw that as a huge, huge victory. But it's not the end of the war. As you can see, they're coming after other applications oriented towards speech. So what you see going on now is the ongoing bigger conflict. And there might be, small victories here, small losses there, big wins, big losses. But this is a battle that's been going on since the Garden of Eden. That's where, fake news began. With the lies of the devil and the speech back and forth. What is true? What is not true? I mean, we had famously Pontius Pilate having Jesus stand in front of him, and he says, "What is truth?" And of course, the truth is standing right in front of him, and he's asking rhetorically, "What is truth?" So this is a battle that's been going on. It's been going on since the beginning. It'll be going on until Jesus comes back out of the sky. So this is just something you have to be prepared for. You don't have to be worried about anything. We shouldn't be worried at all about anything. God says not to worry. So it's just part of the battle. We all have to realize this is a spiritual battle, and speaking the truth and the ability to hear the truth is part of this battle.
Yeah, I believe you're right, and I think I think we're going to be. I mean, court cases in Europe. This thing's going to go on forever. So we're going to have to unfortunately keep following Durov's saga here. In the meantime, his app is still up and running. So I'm sure he's put in safeguards for this very thing. A man who travels like that, he had to escape Russia, right, Josh, to even create this thing.
I wish I understood the French legal system. I've looked at it a couple of times, just sort of in passing, because I don't really have time to become an expert on the French legal system. But when they say a judge is going to make a decision, and that the judge enforces the law, that's just kind of chilling to me to think of a judge enforcing the law. With us, the executive branch executes justice. They enforce the law, and then judges and obviously a jury of our peers are the ones who judge us. I don't think it's that clear cut in France. Does anybody here know more about that?
Well, whether the judges or if there's juries about the people, generally the people take to the streets a lot in France, and they're taking to the comment section of Macron's tweet. I think we have some comments here. Josh, can you read some of these? Do we have some good ones that you've highlighted at all?
I'm trying to see. It's a little small for me.
Oh
Matt.
gosh,
Right.
you guys, come on. Are you serious? I know Jack Posobiec or somebody just said they must have shown. Well, I can't read it. Forget it. Never mind.
Let me see if I can get it bigger.
I can read
now
it. I don't want to
see
read
it.
the word.
Okay, so Chris Pavlovsky says, when you say that you're committed to freedom of expression, you are lying. We have a letter from France that proves this without a doubt. Let me see, where's the fire ones? If you really cared about freedom of speech, you would free Pavel Durov today. Otherwise, shut the hell up. That's my speech.
Yeah, I mean he's gonna get trolled under this as he should.
And Cat Turd says you're a liar and a commie dictator. So maybe that is the last.
So
word.
true, and
Right.
he what he pulled in the last election where Marine Le Pen did not win, even though she really had the support and she would have won, and we talked about that, was so devious and malign because what he did was he actually sacrificed the country to the hardcore communist left in order to remain in power. Anything but to allow Marine Le Pen, who had at least a plurality majority vote in France, from taking power.
Yeah.
And so he'd sacrifice his country to communists because he had all of his people, his peeps, who were running in the election, step down, step aside, so that the communists in any of those battleground districts, whatever they're called, there would win, and Marine Le Pen would lose that.
Right.
What their victory would have been.
Well, like I said, we'll keep tabs on this, of course. But speaking of joining forces, remember, if you recall, if you were here on Friday, we watched live as RFK withdrew from the race in all of the battleground states. His name's
That
still
was
going to be on in
beautiful.
some of the in some of the red, the more heavy red leaning red and blue solid blue states, solid red states. His name will still be there. That being said. You guys, he's gone full on. He went full on MAGA with this tweet that came out. I believe it was this morning, it was yesterday morning. What MAGA really means. I'm going to read this here. The phrase has troubled liberals who think it is a call for a return to an America before civil rights, gay rights, and women's rights. But I have a more generous interpretation, one that is truer to my experience of Donald Trump as he is today. Make America Great Again recalls a nation brimming with vitality, with a can-do spirit, with hope and a belief in itself. It was an America that was beginning to confront its darker shadows, could acknowledge the injustices in its past and present, yet at the same time could celebrate its successes. It was a nation of broad prosperity, the world's most vibrant middle class, and an idealistic belief, though not consistently applied, in freedom, justice, and democracy. It was a nation that led the world in innovation, productivity, and technology, and it was the healthiest country in the world. I have talked to many Trump supporters. I have talked with his inner circle. I have talked to the man himself. This is the America they want to restore. You guys, like I said, he's gone full MAGA.
Beautiful.
What do y'all think?
Just beautiful. And you know what? Because the message is true for anybody who loves their country. Think about your family, whether it be just, in your house or your extended family. What kind of a person would not say, make my family great or whole or prosperous or happy again? It is only those who despise what America is at its foundational core, and they may want to live in the zip codes in America. They may want to live, and there's a White House in D.C., and, with the same basic structure, but they want to eviscerate all of the core principles, everything that built us into this glorious nation, as he just described, and they hate America, so they want to change it to such a degree that it will never be America again, because it's not just the name, it's not the population that happens to be here and alive today, it's the core truths that we hold and share together, that all men are created, that we are endowed with our Creator, by our Creator, with certain unalienable rights. These are the things that make America America. My family, I would never say I disagree with make my family happy or prosperous again. But
Yeah.
they would, the Democrats would.
Yeah. Well, but Kennedy, again, taking to the Sunday shows over the weekend, did allude to some Democrats possibly also joining the Trump campaign. Let's watch this clip from one of the Sunday shows.
I'm going to be campaigning actively. I think President Trump is going to make a series of announcements about other Democrats who are joining his campaign, and I want to make America healthy again, and so does President Trump. So those are objectives. The Wall Street Journal may be worried about shareholder value for pharmaceutical companies, and I think I talk specifically to President Trump about that issue, and he said that he wanted to leave as his legacy healthy children, and that that he was unconcerned about the other implications.
Joe, and right on cue, we're getting word here that Tulsi Gabbard has just endorsed Trump on stage in Michigan. Was this to be expected?
Boom. I don't know if it was to be expected, but I think you will see a larger number of Democrats come on board the Trump train. Well, we want everybody to come on the Trump train, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. However, I do want to throw out a note of caution. One of the biggest problems Trump had in his first administration, and maybe it's just because he's not a politician and he didn't know how things worked, he kept on a lot of people, Democrats at heart or leftists at heart, in his administration, like John Koskinen of the IRS, and for several years even into his administration. And there were all kinds of problems that conservative groups were having with the IRS because the agency was not approving them for a tax-free status. And yet Donald Trump kept these people, again, from previous Democratic administrations, in his administration. You have to do what Reagan did, what Clinton did. You just got to clean house and bring in your own like-minded people. Now, as long as they're like-minded and are voicing what you're voicing and stand for what you believe, I have no problem with Democrats in there. It's like the snakes in the Republican Party, like the Mitt Romneys, who are going to stab you in the back because, oh yeah, I have an R next to my name, so therefore I'm going to vote with you, and they never do, especially at the crucial time. So yeah, let's have Democrats jump aboard the Trump train, but I want to bring that note of caution that you cannot have Democrats who are going to stab you in the back.
That's a good point, Joe.
Yeah, it is. And Josh, when we look at these so far, RFK and Tulsi Gabbard, like these are populist people. These are people who seem to have they're more in touch with the people than they are with the establishment, right? So as long as we kind of see that trend and that he's not giving Nancy Pelosi a seat at the table, I think that's where we're headed here, right?
I mean,
think
Ron
so.
Johnson, we have a clip with Ron Johnson we're going to show that and this is the senator from Wisconsin. He's a great guy. Ron Johnson kind of talks about the healing and the unity, which it sounds a little fluffy to me, but at least I think he makes a great point.
Yeah, let's watch it.
Well, I think it's very important for the campaign. I think even more so, it's very important and very good for America. I've gotten to know Bobby Kennedy during the pandemic. Let me first say he's a very good person. He never sought to champion children's health. It was pretty well thrust on him by moms coming up to him with the science that he simply couldn't turn his back on. He couldn't ignore. And so he became a champion for children's health. And one of the things he's been pointing out during his uncle's administration, chronic illness in children was at 6%. Now it's at 60%. I mean, chronic illness drives our massive healthcare industry, the trillions of dollars we spend on it, and it's been largely ignored, I would argue, because the corruption, the capture by big pharma, big ag of the federal health agencies and other agencies that are designed to regulate them, it's not working. It's a corrupt process. So I think Bobby Kennedy would be the perfect person to get in there. He understands this. He's sued these companies. He understands how the corruption works. And I'd love to see him as Secretary of HHS on a commission on chronic illness. I mean, there's so many ways that President Trump can utilize him. And again, I know President Trump is concerned about chronic illness. So there are plenty of differences between President Trump, myself, and Bobby Kennedy. But this is the way you heal and unify a nation. You put those differences aside and you do everything you can to focus on the areas of agreement, the big things. And chronic illness is a big thing that we need to tackle together.
Elizabeth, I think
that.
this is
This is
the way forward here.
I believe in this so much. I can't tell you how important that's kind of a statement is to me. And this is not just politics. This is just not, okay, we've got to win. Yes, we have to win. And you know what? If you don't win, it doesn't matter how sincere you are about your beliefs. So we have to win. But bring in Bobby Kennedy, who is truly believes this is in the core, his gut, that this is such an important issue. And I am so sick of this issue being set to the side. I don't know, politicians don't normally understand it, but he does. That's the kind of man you want in there. And again, I take your point well, Matt. We want people in there that are going to be MAGA, making America great again, not MASA, making America socialist. Well, for the first time, whatever. MASVA. MASVA. But yeah, it makes me so happy. And I just hope this is not the flush, the bloom on the rose that fades. Right. I hope it lasts through at least November 6th.
Yeah, that's definitely where we needed to at least last to. Brett, we played Brett Weinstein on the program before, and talking about how he was abandoning the Democrat Party now because their core, like you mentioned, the core that Robert Kennedy has been the same, and so the core of the Democrat Party has dramatically shifted. Let's watch this clip here of Brett Weinstein in a recent interview.
Let me just be perfectly clear about this. I think the modern Democratic Party is an existential threat to the Republic. And although I am a Democrat, I've been a Democrat my whole life, the party that I see in front of me today is literally the inverse of the party I signed up for. This is now the party of war. This is the party of racism. This is the party of censorship. I don't recognize this party. There is no conceivable scenario in which I would vote for Kamala Harris.
I mean, Joe, do you think the party is going to start reaching out to like George W. Bush and Mitt Romney and some of those folks to show up over there?
What do you mean start reaching out? They're already in that camp. But you've had famous politicians over the years. Ronald Reagan was a Democrat, right? And he said, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. So this is what Brett Weinstein is saying, the same kind of thing. They're the party of war, racism, censorship. I remember it wasn't that long ago when RFK was still in the race, people were suggesting a Trump RFK ticket as to run as the president and vice president before J.D. Vance was elected. This was a long time ago, maybe a year or so ago. And, RFK has some big differences with Trump on climate change and some other issues. But as you played his message before, he does want to make America healthy again and great again. It's MAGA with a G, not MACA with a C, like Make America Crap Again, which it is right now, by the way. And unfortunately, if the Democrats get in, it will be crapola forever. This is, America is, like Brett was saying, it's an existential threat to the Republic, and it has to be stopped.
I love hearing it from somebody like him. When I think about, my mother, Irish Catholic. I mean, everybody had red hair. Everybody had a bunch of kids. They went to Catholic school and church 7 days a week. And of course the Kennedys were, the royalty. And, my family came from Ireland. And so the point is that she voted for Ronald Reagan. And I've told that story before. She said a prayer in the car and asked God forgive her, but she was going to vote for Ronald Reagan. She wasn't sure she was supposed to, but she did it anyway. And if you think about my husband, who was a radical leftist, he was always pro-life, but he was radical, Marxist, Maoist, whatever it was, he was all of it. And you couldn't get worse than that. Well, I guess you could technically, but anyway, I find old buttons from when he was in college in high school with Angela Davis on it, free Angela now. He voted for Reagan. And when you see Weinstein and when you see these various people that are saying, you know what, I cannot do this anymore. And you're seeing it from a cross section, boys, young men. The decline in support for the Democrat Party is so precipitous, so tremendously, it's 10 or 11 points since just maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah,
and then of course Hispanics and Black Americans too.
Yeah, I saw. I think we may have seen the same graph there. Yeah, that was very telling.
Yes.
But on the heels of this is this huge threat to the system here. There was a tweet put out that talked about the ending of the Secret Service protection for RFK. The moment he announced the suspension of his campaign, Fauci remains protected, but.
With the chauffeur.
But when it comes to RFK Jr., is it fair to say they want him dead?
Yes.
Well, they had him not covered for 99% of his campaign. He had to beg and plead, and they still said no. The only thing that turned it around was a bullet missing Trump's head by centimeters, and they said, okay, well, maybe we should give Secret Service protection to RFK. But yes, they want them all dead that don't agree with them, by the way.
That shows how vile they are.
That's because it's who they are. They want them dead. If you don't agree with them, they want you dead.
Well, and the rhetoric continues. It may have stopped a little while using terms like kill and that sort of thing, but that rhetoric has apparently come back. Cory Booker was on with Jake Tapper over the weekend as well, and let's listen to his. Let's listen to his comment.
Let's listen.
To say that the MAGA Republicans are not still undermining common sense, pragmatic, sensible politics is just wrong. And what I know this election can do is finally kill that strain of the Republican Party in a way that I think helps the pragmatic Republicans come back.
Oh my gosh.
Is that the kind of rhetoric that we're still going to be hearing? We all say it. We all say those terms, but you definitely read the room.
Kill the strain.
I like Jake Tapper's suit and tie. I thought that was really nice. But anyway.
That's all you got to say about that. Josh,
I got to say this about Jake Tapper really quick, because right now, today, there are questions about the debate that's going to happen on ABC coming up in September between Trump and Kamala Harris. And Donald Trump threw out a compliment to Jake Tapper, saying that he was actually fair to him in that previous debate. And overall, it was. You didn't see any of the gotcha questions that we've seen in the previous debate. So we've seen CNN, some reins or controls being put on them where they are tamping down their leftist radicalism, their absolute viciousness.
Joe, do you think that's going to last, though? Don't you think it's
no.
a different? I think that there was a reason. We could debate about what those reasons were. I think we did back then. But I don't. I think the gloves are off. And I don't think this.
I do.
And I think. Don't
That's
you
what
think
I'm
they
saying.
have a strategy for the next one? And I did think Jake Tapper was fantastic, if you can call it that, compared to what I thought it was going to be. I mean,
and he's been in that interview with Cory Booker. I saw a more longer clip. He was challenging. He has been challenging some of the folks that have come on his show recently. So maybe there's just a little bit of
Maybe he wants to not go down in history as compromised as the rest of his colleagues.
Yeah,
maybe.
Guys,
maybe.
I saw a pile of dog crap with a blueberry in it one time. So, I mean, let's not give the guy credit. Still a literal enemy of the state, as far as I can tell.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Josh, bringing us back down
Yes,
to
thank you.
down to earth here. Very good. Okay. Well, folks, let's go around the horn here because I want to know. This Monday, right? So we got a week coming up. I don't know what's on the schedule. We saw Trump laying the wreaths at the fallen soldiers, for the Afghan. Debacle that happened. It's the third year anniversary of that. But as we move on, like we just said, we saw Tulsi Gabbard on stage. Anybody else have any other speculations of who RFK might have been alluding to as we close out the program today?
Well, it won't be Barack Obama, but I have to say this. Just today, and we have the story up at worldnetdaily.com if you want to check it out, Trump has released a brilliant ad using Barack Obama's own words on the Democrat National Convention stage, saying, we've seen 4 years of bumbling and bluster, and, the sequel is always worse. And it ends with, I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message. Because we've seen the past 4 years of bumbling and bluster from these people in charge. We really aren't, they're not the ones in charge, but, they're figureheads. But we've seen this 4 years, and it's been an absolute disaster. So Trump just did a brilliant job trolling the Democrats with this new ad.
Yeah, that's great. I haven't seen it yet. We'll have to check that out. Elizabeth, where do you think we go forward this week?
I don't
What are the
know
big surprises?
who's coming next out of the Democrats. I'll just wait till it happens. It'll be very exciting, and I'll be just very, very happy. That's my sophisticated analysis or prediction. But I will say this. I would like to say kudos, bravo to Josh the Doomer, because his whole he always wants to say censorship is coming. Go to Rumble and subscribe and X. Forget Facebook and YouTube for us. Support us by going there because we know that it's going to get shut down. Facebook, which we're already pretty shut down there, and YouTube, and you need to get your news from us in the platforms that will allow free speech. And he's never mentioned Telegram. I do fault you for that, but at least we're adding that now. And
yes, we have
it's
that
so
graphic.
true.
Throw it up.
I mean, how can you have censorship, more censorship, than to have the president of the company or the founder and president of the company, CEO, put in jail because, just like with Facebook, and we did a 4 or 5 part series on Facebook child porn at WorldNet Daily. You can search for it there, by Chelsea Schilling. He's put in prison or potentially for 20 years because there are bad actors that use his app. Can you imagine if Google, Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, if that's the precedent, then I expect all of them to be rounded up as soon as they go through Paris. They're on the way to the Eiffel Tower. I mean, everybody was probably there for the Olympics. Why did they wait till after the Olympics? Anyway, okay, very good. Well, I have to do another plug too, because over on the Rumble channel are these whistleblower videos. I just got finished watching this morning part 3. And this is a fantastic video series that looks at the of what's going on in our university. So I encourage everybody to go over to that Rumble channel, hit the subscribe button. WND Newsroom is the channel, that is what it's called there over on Rumble. So download the app, set up an account, follow the program there. But of course, watch these whistleblower programs because they are phenomenal. Josh, where else can your fellow Doomers make sure that they're following the program?
Yeah, so I just kicking back to the whistleblower. So what we're calling this is a whistleblower special report, which WorldNet Daily produces monthly now. But this is going to be a series that we created, a 3-part series about what's going on in universities. And specifically, we've always known there's been craziness or like hard left leaning, but what's happening now is that college students are themselves reporting that they are mentally unwell, and suicide rates are going through the roof. What's going on in colleges? And if you have grandkids or you have kids going into college, you need to know this, and you need to see this. And we have lots of statistics cited in the episodes, and you don't want to miss it.
Excellent. Very good. All right, folks. Follow all of us on the social media channels. You'll find those links all over WorldNet Daily. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you here on Wednesday. God bless.